Rhodes under the Order of St. John, the Knights Templar, and the history, 1310 until 1522. After the history of the legends, or actual fact, of the slaying of the dragon slayers of Rhodes and Cephalonia of the islands of Greece, I promised to give you this video on the history of the castles that are still there, the old city that's still there, and when you walk around, you feel as if you're actually living in the time of the King's Knights of St. John, Order of the Knights Templar, the hospitals there. The hospital is in excellent condition, and we were told when we visited this area that the cubicles on the side of the building were actually the hospital. The front part of the cubicle was where the page of the knight sat, and the injured page, the injured knight who was there for convalescence, was in the inside part of the cubicle. The page would sit outside, and the knight was inside recuperating. And the grand hall, there were two huge fireplaces, one on each side. Of course, they were lit during winter, and would give heat to the whole room. Of course, Rhodes does not get very cold in the winter. As a matter of fact, there are many people who swim all year round. That's how wonderful the weather is. It's even warmer in Crete, and very warm in Cyprus as well. It hardly ever freezes. But the history of Rhodes under the Order of St. John lasted from 1310 until 1522. The island of Rhodes was a sovereign territory entity of the Knights Hospitaliers, who settled the island from Palestine and from Cyprus. The Order of Knights of Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem, commonly known as the Knights Hospitaller or the Order of St. John, was a medieval, early modern Catholic military order. It was headquartered in the Kingdom of Jerusalem. They settled on the island from Palestine and from Cyprus, where they did not exercise temporal power. The first Grand Master was the French Folc de Valaret from 1305 to 1399. After the fall of the Kingdom of Jerusalem in 1291, the city of Jerusalem had fallen in 1187. The knights were confined to the country of Tripoli. That's just west of Damascus, actually. It was founded in the Levant, in the modern-day region of Tripoli, northern Lebanon, and parts of western Syria, which supported an indigenous population of Christians. So Tripoli of that area of the Levant, and when Accra was captured, Accra is also known to locals as Akko or Akka, in the city, in the coastal plain region of northern district of Israel. It was captured in 1291, and the order sought refuge in the Kingdom of Cyprus. Now, Cyprus has a beautiful thing that they drink. It's like Porto wine. It's called Commandaria. It's a beautiful brandy wine, and it was a special concoction, a special recipe for King John. And the Commandaria wine is only produced in Cyprus. It was made for King John and his knights to drink, and it's a beautiful, beautiful taste. If you are able to get some from your local winery, from your local liquor shop, please get one, get a bottle and try it because it's delicious. Anyway, that is only produced in Cyprus, and it was a special recipe by order of King John. Now, and they still produce up to this day. Now, finding themselves, it's the same taste as what it had then. That's why it's a treat if you can get it. Now, finding themselves becoming enmeshed in Cypriot politics, their master, Guillaume de Valaret, created a plan of acquiring their own temporal domain, and they selected Rhodes to be their new home as part of the Byzantine Empire. Due to the repeated disagreements with the Kingdom of Cyprus, Henry II, which left the privileges of the Knights Hospitaller unaltered, Folc de Valaret made the decision to transfer the order to the nearby island of Rhodes, which was under the formal authority of the Byzantine Empire Andronikos II Palaiologos. He then went to Avignon and Paris to ask for help and consent from Pope Clement V and King Philip IV of France. The pontiff approved the project and, without revealing the end of the mission, ordered the sending of new crusaders, and in September 1308, a fleet of Genoese and Neapolitan ships set sail from Brindisi, Italy. The emperor had rejected the homage proposal made by Valaret and sent reinforcement to defend the island. The knights repulsed them. On August 15, 1310, after over 4 years of campaigning, the city of Rhodes surrendered to the knights, and they also gained control of a number of neighboring islands and the Anatolian port of Halikarnassos and the island of Castellorizo. At Rhodes, the resident knights of each lang were headed by a bailey. Bailey, what is a bailey? A bailiff was the king's administrative representative during the ancient regime in northern France, where the bailiff was responsible for the application of justice and control of the administration and local finances in his bailiwick. Now, English Grand Prior at the time was Philippe de Tam, who acquired the estates allocated to the English lang from 1330 to 1358. In 1334, the Knights of Rhodes defeated Andronicus and his Turkish auxiliaries, and in the 14th century there were several other battles in which they fought. In 1374, the Knights took over the defense of Smyrna, which is in the west coast of Turkey today. They conquered by a crusade in 1344, and they held it until it was besieged and taken by Timur in 1402. On Rhodes, the Hospitallers were forced to become a more militarized force, fighting especially with the Barbary pirates. They withstood 2 invasions in the 15th century, one by the Sultan of Egypt in 1444, and another by Ottoman Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror in 1480, who, after capturing Constantinople and defeating the Byzantine Empire in 1453, made the Knights a priority target. We know that Constantinople fell to Mehmed Mohammed the Conqueror. He was only 18 years old. His mother, by the way, was Greek. And they took Istanbul. His mother convinced him of not destroying the icons in the Church of Holy Wisdom, Hagia Sophia, so he plastered them over with plaster. Today, the plaster is still there. Some of those icons have been cleared off from the plaster, and icons were murals, actually, and the murals of inlaid little stones were beautiful. I mean, they look as if they were made yesterday. Some of them that have been uncovered from the plaster look totally new. So they were saved because of what his mother told Mehmed Mohammed the Conqueror, and he listened to her. Now, Mehmed, after conquering Istanbul, wanted to capture, defeat the whole of the Byzantine Empire in 1453, went to make the Knights his priority target. In 1402, they created a stronghold on the peninsula of Halikarnassos, today's Bodrum. They used pieces of the partially destroyed mausoleum at Halikarnassos, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, to strengthen their rampart in Petronium. In 1522, the entirely new sort of force arrived, 400 ships under the command of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, delivered 100,000 men to the island, 200,000 in other sources. Against this force, the Knights under Grand Master Philippe Vellier de l'Isle Adam had about 7,000 men at arms and their fortifications. So 7,000 against maybe 200,000. You can understand how futile it would have been. Anyway, they had to make their stand. The siege lasted 6 months, at the end of which the surviving defeated Hospitallers were allowed to withdraw to Sicily in Italy. Despite the defeat, both Christians and Muslims seem to have regarded the conduct of Philippe Vellier de l'Isle d'Adam as extremely valiant, and the Grand Master was proclaimed a defender of the faith by Pope Adrian VI. Now, the background of the Hospitaller. They were founded in Jerusalem in 1070. The Order of the Hospital became one of the most important military orders, with a significant presence not only in the Crusader states of the Levant, but also controlling large properties in Western Europe. They were the Knights Templar, as we know. Following the fall of Acre in 1291, the order had moved its base to Cyprus, Limassol in Cyprus. Their position in Cyprus was precarious. Their limited income made them dependent on donations from Western Europe and involved them in quarrels with King Henry II of Cyprus, while the loss of Acre and the Holy Land led to widespread questioning on the purpose of the monastic orders and proposals to confiscate their possessions. According to Gerard de Montréal, as soon as he was elected Grand Master of the Knights Hospitaller in 1305, Folc de Valaret planned to conquer the conquest of Rhodes, which would ensure him a liberty of action that he could not have as long as the order remained in Cyprus, and would provide a new basis for war against the Turks. Rhodes was an attractive target, a fertile island. It was strategically located off the southwest coast of Asia Minor, astride the trade routes to either Constantinople or Alexandria and the Levant. The island was a Byzantine possession, but the increasingly feeble empire was evidently unable to protect its insular possessions, as demonstrated by the seizure of the island of Chios in 1304 by the Genovese Benedetto Zaccaria, who secured recognition of his possession from Emperor Andronicus II Palaiologos, 1282 to 1328, and the competing activities of the Genovese and Venetians in the area of the Dodecanese, of the Aegean Sea. So indeed, Rhodes itself was often given as a fief by the Byzantine empires to the admirals of the Genovese origin, and thus the Genovese Vignolo de Vignoli claimed possession of the island of Kos and Leros, which are, by the way, very close to Rhodes, and the estate of Lardos on Rhodes, which is a very big island, as imperial fiefs. Already in 1299, the Pope proposed that Frederick III of Sicily capture the island, and his half-brother Sancho, a Hospitalier knight, led an unsuccessful expedition in Greek waters in 1305, aiming to capture some Byzantine islands. In the same year, the scholar Raymond Lull identified Rhodes as a suitable base for naval operations to prevent Christians from trading with the Muslims, and advocated its capture as part of Charles of Valois' plans for a new crusade in the east. At the same time, the Venetians seized a number of islands in the area, such as Carpathos, jeopardizing Genovese influence. So you see, it's almost basically French against the Italians here. The Cypriot chronicles indicate that Folc de Valaret entered into a contract with the Genovese, named as Boniface de Grimaldi by Gerard de Montréal and Vignolo de Vignoli by the two Italian chronicles. The latter are probably correct, since the documents survive dating 27 May 1306, concluded between Valaret and other representatives of the order and Vignolo. The latter thereby ceded his rights on Kos and Leros and the Hospitallers, with the right of retaining Lardos of Rhodes and one more estate of his choice on Rhodes. In the other islands near Rhodes, they would conquer. Vignolo would enjoy extensive rights as vicarius su justiciarius, albeit the knights themselves and their servants, their knights, their pages that is, would be under the direct jurisdiction of the Grand Master. Vignolo and the knights would jointly appoint the tax collectors for the islands other than Rhodes, and would divide their income into 2/3 going to the order and 1/3 to Vignolo. Pope Clement V was most likely kept in the dark about the Hospitaler's designs on Rhodes, as no mention of it is made in the contemporary correspondence between Pope and Villaret. This is all from Wikipedia. I'll leave links below for you for this. And, well, as we know, these islands not only were very ancient Greek islands, but they had a very rich medieval history, and the history concerning the Crusades. When you go to this island, and Cyprus as well, because I used to live in Cyprus when I was small. I left the island when I was 8 years old. We moved to Canada. We had to leave, and that's a long story. But anyway, there are beautiful buildings still there from that time period. Beautiful buildings, very well kept, very well built actually. I'll leave links below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.